So welcome back to another Thursday on the Pagan Perspective. I'm your host Yeka, and this week we're talking about discrimination. Not just discrimination, but a very specific incident of it. That would be the cat being very playful. Sorry about the noise. He seems to always know when I'm filming and likes to play right under the camera. Anyways, so the topic is below, and it actually links to an article which I'll let you read on your own. Gonna assume that you've read the article or seen the previous hosts' videos about it. But the question is as follows. It's from Romanticshadow, and they ask, I do not normally send stuff to people, but this is an issue I feel we should talk about, or at least see. Maybe the more noise we make about it, the better his chances. It kind of reminds me of the Fox News thing. Maybe with enough people, this guy could get the okay again, or the mayor to apologize. I don't know, what do you think? Please read. So, the short of it, like I was saying, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but basically in a town in Arkansas, a pagan group moved there, established pagan group, and faced a tremendous amount of discrimination. I want to start by saying that this particular article is secondhand of one side of the story. That doesn't make their side of the story less valid, but it is important to keep in mind when we form opinions that we are only seeing one side of the story, and with things like this, even though there were a lot of direct quotes, it's not the whole story, and it's someone's interpretation of the story. So we're interpreting their interpretation of somebody's interpretation. But the responses that I had personally when I was reading it, I was very bothered by it. I was bothered by it because this was something that's happening in America, and discrimination, I believe, is a very un-American practice. So it's also something that the discrimination was being done, or is being done, so the current issue, primarily by people who claim to be Christian. And I think that's also very un-Christ-like way to behave. And my view of Christianity, and everybody has different views, but what I think Christianity is about is trying to be as Christ-like as possible. At least that's the behavior part. They have some theology and religion, belief stuff too, but the how one behaves in the world, which is what I care about. Now, all of that being said, this isn't just a pagan issue. In this case, pagans are the victims, but discrimination is something that affects all of us, and it doesn't matter who the group is, they can be discriminated against. It could be a Muslim family that moves somewhere that is predominantly a different religion. It could be a gay couple. It could be race. It could be economic. I mean, there's all of these different things that can be discriminated against, and my belief is that that's not okay, right? It's really not okay to treat people that way. So that's where my feelings, my thoughts about it are. So we come to what to do about it. And obviously, I can't really give very good advice to these people because I don't know the situation, I'm not there. I'm not from that part of the country. I'm from the Southwest, which is culturally quite different from a lot of the Southeast. And, in full disclosure, I actually have a hard time with a lot of the culture I have been exposed to from the Southeast. There's parts that I like, parts that are more difficult for me, and I have to be really, sometimes I have to be really present with that and try to not be really negative and prejudiced towards that kind of culture, just as a, being human. But I think that being aware of it and trying not to act on the negative prejudice is really very important. But continuing, so I can't really give very good advice other than to say that in whatever the issue is, whether it's a discrimination here or it's a fight with your boss, or we have a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of mental space, and physically energy, like that we're animals, we can only do so much. And so we have to choose and pick your battles, and to see look at what we value and what is worth fighting for. My guess is that this is probably very much worth fighting for these individuals. It might be, obviously they've been looking at their options to see, is it worth staying here? What, is the potential outcome worth the investment? And the outcome in cases like this may not only be for the individual, but it may be the larger fight of fighting against that kind of behavior and saying, no, it's not okay. And that's where there was a little bit of an ask for people from the outside to get involved, and maybe that could help, because this issue isn't just about them, it's about pagans being treated this way, or any other group being treated this way in general. The second part is, instead of them, but us from the outside, looking at discrimination, I think that we need to make, as a society and as individuals, we really need to make up our mind about how okay or not okay is it. And personally, I think that not okay, right? And I would love for everybody to make that decision. But once, let's say we make that decision, how we behave around it is very important to what the eventual outcomes will be. And of course, it's not like we can just fix the problem and then it's gone. Like, we're humans and society continues to change, and nothing is static, right? But how do we choose to respond in situations like that? Do we choose to empower and encourage that situation? Do we choose to, and maybe not that situation, but situations of discrimination? Because again, we have to choose and pick our battles and see how much energy are we willing to invest into that situation. But I think that examples of discrimination happen a lot closer to home for all of us. Like I was talking about it in myself, recognizing some of my prejudices against certain cultures being, I think it's important to look at that and make the choice. Do I want to continue to feed that, or do I not want to? So this isn't like I've got the answers for the situation kind of video, other than to say that I think we need to be, and I know this is my answer to practically everything, but to really be aware of it, and in this case really make a conscious effort to not put up with it when we see it happen. If we are creating media, to try and create media which is more balanced and fair in its representation of people. If we see comments towards people that's inappropriate based on this value, because again, these are all values, and I'm coming from where my values are, which I obviously think are good values, because otherwise I wouldn't have them. Those kinds of examples of trying to behave in a way that creates a less bigoted, world. So, what do you guys think? Definitely take a look at the article. There were some links to further information on it, and let us know what you think below. Okay.